Hi guys, it's time for the quarterly check-in. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Laura and I love doing something that Murphy came up with, so credits to her. She does a video every 3 months where she basically does a summary of the highlights and she checks in how she's doing with her reading goals. Basically, it's going to be a summary about the books I read in April, May and June. So without further introduction, let's start with the awards. The first award is going to be for my favorite audiobook. Guys, I listened to an audiobook I was obsessed with. You know when you love an audiobook so much that you just are happy thinking about the next day being able to play it. Like, I remember just waking up and being like, I'm going to have breakfast listening to this audiobook, and it just made my day. So it's a romance audiobook. It's like nothing out of the world or anything. Like, it doesn't have special effects, but the voices of the narrators, especially the voice of the female narrator, I don't know why, but it was so nice to hear. I love hearing her voice telling me the story, and on top of that the book was good, so it really helped. The audiobook is for Writing Mr. Wrong, which is a romance book about a writer, Gemma, who wrote a book where she based her hero on her childhood best friend Mason Moretti, who is now a famous hockey player. The thing is that someone realizes that the hero and Mason Moretti are kind of similar and they think that they are dating. Gemma could do it with some publicity for her book, and also Mason Moretti needs good publicity, so they decide to let the fans think that they are dating. They don't really tell them that they are dating, so they don't really lie, but they start to go on friendly dates and people think that they are dating, but in truth they are just reconnecting. And it was such a great concept because I'm not someone who loves fake dating. I feel like the limits sometimes are a bit off, and especially they're just so hard to believe. Like, they're so unrealistic, you really need to go along with them. I feel in this case it was so much more easy to believe because they were just two friends. The publicity was great for both of them, but they weren't doing it just for the publicity. Like, they were genuinely having fun together. They used to be really good friends. They love talking with each other, and you are just reading the dialogues and you see that there is a lot of chemistry. So it was really nice to see them talking, realize what they have been missing during these years, and it was such a great romance. It's slow burn. Both characters were very complex. They both had their own issues, and also like the third act problem wasn't annoying. I don't know how much I will have connected with the characters if I have read the book instead of listening to it, because when you really love the audiobook, it always helps you connect with the story. But the story itself, I thought it was absolutely amazing. In fact, I'm going to be reading another book by the authors, and I'm very excited to figure it out if she also works for me in an ebook format. Then the other award I have is for my favorite graphic novel. This was also one of the biggest surprise of these last 3 months, and it was Muted Volume 1. You're probably so sick of me talking about this book, but it's just so good, guys. Like, it was such a surprise. I had so much fun with it. I'm dying to read the second volume, which I have because I have an arc. I was so excited for that arc. So basically, Muted is a paranormal sapphic romance graphic novel, and it's just such a great book. You have a lot of characters that you really connect with, but also like the writing, like, I don't know if it's called the writing, but the way it's writing really makes me connect with the characters. Like, something I always struggle with in graphic novels. That's why I usually don't read graphic novels, because I feel like I always connect better with books that are normal books that are not graphic novels. I never remember the name of books that are in graphic novels. This was a deception. This made me realize I could actually care about characters very deeply on a graphic novel, and that made me just so excited to read more graphic novels and to find out more authors that are able to really send me all those feelings. And also, like, the story was super cool. There were all the times things happening, even though it's the first volume of a series, so it's a lot of introduction, but I felt like the author did such a great job at giving us characters and action. She even solved some of the mysteries we have, but also gave us so many questions for the next volumes. This was originally published on Webtoon, and they're now publishing it traditionally. The first book was released on July. I also read an arc, and the second book is going to be released on October. Maybe you have already read it on Webtoon. If you did, you have amazing taste. If not, I would highly recommend reading this if you're interested in paranormal with a bit of romance. And then the last award was so hard to do, guys, because I had 2 books I wanted to talk about and I didn't know how to do an award for them, basically. Just let me tell you that those are my favorite top 5 books, okay? They're just books I really want to talk about, and I decided to do a work on favorite couple because, being honest, I love those couples. Rio and Hailey from Rewinded Park. This is the last book in Windy City series, and this time it's a second chance romance. It's such a difficult trope to write, and in this case I really fell in love with the characters. I could really see how much they love each other from the beginning, even though they remember how much it hurt when they broke up when they were teenagers, because basically they were like childhood lovers and something happened, they lost contact, and they found each other again because Rio is going to decorate his house and the one who's going to be decorating it is Hailey. So they will have like this forced proximity. There are also neighbors because Hailey is friends with Rio's neighbor and she's going to be living there for a while. It was just such a great book, to be honest. Like, the pacing was great, because my problem with Windy City series is the fact I feel like all the books were too long. I haven't read book 1 yet, but the other 3 books I've read in the series felt a bit too repetitive of times, and I didn't have this problem with Rewinded Back. I felt like the pacing was a lot better. You have a back and forth between past and present, so you really can see how they fell in love, and you can also see how they are making it work again. And also the author has a writing style that I absolutely love, and it's the reason why I keep coming back to the series, even though I think her books are way too long. The writing style is just so easy to read, it's quite addicting, and also it's just funny. Like, you're reading it and you're having such a great time, and her characters are so easy to care about. So this was Rewinded Back, and then I want to cheat a bit and mention another book with another couple I love, and it's Henry and Reed from The Weight of It All. In this case, it's a gay romance book about a guy, Henry, who has just been broken up by his boyfriend, and it's because his boyfriend tells him that he's not taking care of himself and he's overweight. So Henry decides to go to the gym and kind of get a bit fit, and I just love his journey because you can really see the fact that it's not about getting fit, it's about feeling confident on his skin. It was such a great trajectory, and also like the two of them together were so good. Like, you could really see why they fall in love, and that's something that sometimes authors are not that great at, because I feel like it's very easy, well, it's easier to show like the attraction, like physical attraction, but when it comes to the dialogues, when it comes to why they want to be together besides the physical attraction, it's harder. I feel this time their lifestyles were so compatible. Both of them love to cook and go to farmers market, and I just fell in love with them. Before we jump into the top 3 books of these last 3 months, I'm going to be talking about the books I should have read. So basically, for every top 3 books, I have to pick up another book by the same author. So for example, my favorite book of the last quadrimester was Dust of Dreams, so I had to read another book by Stevie Harrison. Did I really manage to do this for the 3 books? No, I didn't. In case of Stevie Harrison, I did, because I read Dust of Dreams. My top 2 favorite book was A Little Hatred, and I wanted to read the second book, The Trouble with Peace, and I haven't yet, but I do have an excuse for it, okay? So I read Dust of Dreams on May, and I decided that the next book I wanted to read that was high fantasy was going to be the last book in Malasan Book of the Fallen, because if you don't know, I really want to prioritize Malasan this year because it's like more complex to read, and from September on I'm going to be studying, so I don't feel it's going to be very easy to be reading Malasan while I'm studying full time. So I decided to prioritize Malasan. That's why I didn't pick up this book. And June was quite stressful for me because I had to move to another city. I started a new job. I was also doing my master thesis, so I just didn't have time for Malasan either. So basically, I didn't read this, and I didn't read The Crippled God, but I will this time, I promise you. This is happening in August or September, okay? I absolutely love A Little Hatred, and I'm dying to read this book. Like, this is so happening, guys. So the other author I had to read was Karin Slaughter, because my top 3 book of last quadrimester was The Good Daughter by her. I also failed this one. I'm so sorry, but I kind of didn't, okay? I finished a book by her on July, so it's not really on the timeline I should have read the book, but I did read the book, just not between April and June. I finished it at the beginning of July, and I read Pieces of Her, which I absolutely loved. So basically, I didn't do great, but at the same time I feel like I'm in the right path. So now onto my top 3 favorite books of these last 3 months. It was so high because, as you can imagine from the Hogwarts, I just had so many books that I absolutely loved, but I managed to narrow it down to 3. So on top number 3 I have my new favorite sapphic romance book, and it's The Snowball Effect. This is also a book that I felt I've talked about it so many times in this channel because I've talked about it on the Media Freakout tag. So I'll be quick. This is a slow-burn sapphic romance book that I absolutely adore, about 2 girls, Emma and Regan, who are complete opposites and who are sharing the same flat, and at the beginning they don't really know how to get along because Regan wants to be best friends with Emma, and Emma just doesn't want to really talk with Regan or anything. She just wants to be by herself. So they have like this small problem at the beginning, and at some point they decide to give it a try, and they start to go on friendly dates, and they start to do things together on the flat, and they will realize that they could be best friends. And it was such a great book. Again, it's by Kelley, so it's going to be slow, but there is going to be progression all the time, and her books are just so realistic. Like, you can really believe in the characters because the books are so long. You really feel like you know them and you understand how they fall in love and how is their progression internally. If you want something slow that feels really realistic, because lately you feel like all the romance books lack the feelings and the authenticity, I highly recommend this book. So now I have to pick up a book by Kelley to read in the second quadrimester, and it's very hard because I've read basically all the books she has came up with. I only have 2 left and some novellas, but the novellas are from the couples of books I've read by her, so I don't think that really comes towards this goal. So basically I have 2 options: In the Long Run and Down to Science. Those are the only 2 books I haven't read by her, but I have another option, and is Trying Again on the Same Page, which is a book that I DNF, and I'm not sure if I DNF it because I wasn't in the mood for a slow-burn romance book, because her books again are very slow paced and you really need to be in the mood for that. So I don't know if it was because of me or because of the book. So I think I'm going to be giving On the Same Page another try, and if I think it doesn't work for me, I will be trying either In the Long Run or Down to Science. And then on top 2 I have a book that I absolutely loved. I've also talked about it on my Media Freakout tag, and it's the second book in Shades of Magic called A Gathering of Shadows. Guys, this book was so enjoyable to read. It was like everything I want on a fantasy book, to be honest. It's like not very shocking because it's like not super complex if you compare it with adult fantasy books I read, but at the same time it was just such a great time. Like, I really enjoyed the plot, the characters. I read it so fast because it was addicting, and I felt like it was as good as the first book and even gave you more surprises that I didn't see coming. It also ends on a cliffhanger, so I'm definitely going to be reading the next book in the series. I'm excited, but at the same time I'm so sad. If you don't know what the series is about, basically the first book, well, the whole series is about the concept of 4 universes. Every single universe has one London. The other cities don't exist, they are different, but London is the same in the 4 universes. And what happens is that in one of them the magic doesn't exist, in another one of them the magic is starting to get reckless. Then you have a red London that really works, where the magic is everywhere and it's like the happiest place, everything works out perfectly. And then you have a 4th London, the black London, that is closed because magic got crazy and they have to shut it down. What happens is that you're following a character who is able to travel from one London to another, so he's like a messenger between different universes, and it was such a cool concept, and also it was so well executed. I'm having such a great time with this. If you're someone who doesn't really read young adult books that much, but you really do miss having a fantasy book that is easy to read but doesn't feel like too young adult, I would recommend this one. For someone who doesn't really appreciate young adult that much anymore because I need something darker, I think it was like unique enough and darker enough to entertain me without being too complex, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like the balance was so good, and I really recommend it. And on my top 1 is going to be a book that I absolutely love, that it made me fangirl so much, and it's going to be Beg, Borrow or Steal. This is about 2 teachers who don't really get along, but in a good way. Like, they have the best banter, and basically the hero Jackson was going to be marrying someone in another city, but at the end he doesn't marry her. He comes back to the small town he used to work with Emily, and he buys the house next to Emily's. because Emily doesn't want him there. So he's going to try to sabotage the renovation by talking with people who work in construction in this town. And since it's a very small town and Emily is very well loved there, it's going to be very hard for Jackson to renovate his house. It was a book that was full of action, like things happening. For example, Emily is a writer and she sends her draft by mistake to the principal of the school they work at, who is very traditional, and her novella is a very spicy one. She's going to be asking Jack for help and they will have to try to come up with an idea to steal that computer and delete the email. It was just such a fun book, but at the same time the characters really felt complex and real. I cried reading this book because I really felt how the heroine was feeling. To be honest, it's not a 5-star book because I'm so picky, guys. There is one thing I will have changed, and only one thing, and it's the fact that I wanted more spice. Okay, we only have like one scene and it's not very explicit, and I'm not someone who likes a lot of spice, but I wanted that scene. After the slow burn, after all the tension, after seeing how great the chemistry was between them, I deserved that scene. So I don't know which book I'm going to be reading by this author for the next quadrimester. I'm thinking about either When in Rome 1, so the first book in this series, because Beckborough or Steel is book 3, because I don't mind reading books out of order. I either start from the beginning and read When in Rome 1, or I read When in Rome 2, which is called Practice Makes Perfect. Now, as for goals, I had like very simple goals this year. First one was reading 50 books. That's a random number I put on GoodReads. I've read so far 65 books, counting the ones I've read on July too. But I've been having this reading goal for the last years of trying to prioritize quality over quantity. So really, reading 50 books wasn't really a big goal for me. The real goal was first reading a classic, which I really did. I read Virginia Woolf, A Rooms of One's Own, and also reviewing the books I was reading, which I'm also doing. I'm not like the best at reviewing them the same day I finish the book or anything. Sometimes it takes me like 1 month to upload the review on GoodReads, but I'm uploading a review for every single book I'm reading. So if you are interested in that, you can follow me on GoodReads. And then my other reading goal was like a TBR I made for myself for 2025. I'll put them here so you can see them, but I've read 13 so far out of 25. So I'm doing quite well. I've read half of them. For the next quadrimester, my biggest priority is going to be reading The Crippled God, which I already started, and reading The Trouble with Peace, which is a book I should have read in this quadrimester. I also want to read more than May books. I feel I haven't really read than May this year so far, and I really want to read Thousand Atoms. So I think those are mainly my goals for the next 3 months. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know which were your favorite books of the last months. Let me know if you have read any of these books and what you thought about them. And also let me know if you have any recommendations for me. As always, I'm always open to suggestions. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give a like, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon in another video.